The silent observers. The Galactic Concord had always viewed humans as the diplomats of the stars. In the 3 centuries since Earth joined the interstellar community, humans had earned a reputation for measured responses, quick compromises, and an almost baffling preference for peaceful solutions. While the Tselvari proudly displayed their battle prowess, and the Motari boasted of their strategic genius, humans quietly signed treaties, established trade routes, and spoke softly in council chambers. Most species considered them weak. Some even pitied them. Admiral Thorne of the Tselvari Imperium had once famously remarked, "Humans lack the spine for true power. They apologize when others step on their tails." The comet had drawn laughter across 17 systems. That laughter died the day that Tselvari's Third Fleet vanished without a trace. 83 warships, over 300,000 crew members, gone. Not in some remote backwater system, but along the primary trade corridor connecting the Concord's central worlds. No distress signals, no debris field, no radiation signature, nothing. The Concorde erupted with theories, wormhole anomalies, mass drive failures, rogue black holes. Some even suggested the legendary space leviathans of the Outer Rim had finally returned. But there was one possibility no one considered. No one except Commander Maya Ellis of the Earth vessel Stargazer. "Confirm scan results," she ordered, her voice betraying no emotion as the holographic display showed empty space where the Tselvari fleet had been just hours before. "Confirmed, Commander," replied Lieutenant Noah Park, his fingers dancing across the sensor array. "No residual signatures. The nanite cloud has completed its work." Ellis nodded once, acknowledged receipt of mission completion to command. Then set course for the Sirius observation post. Standard survey protocols. "The Concorde will send investigators," said Park quietly. "Let them," Ellis replied. "They'll find nothing but questions." She didn't smile. She didn't need to. The Stargazer was officially registered as a deep space astronomical research vessel. No weapons, no military designation, just scientists studying stellar phenomena. Or so the Concorde believed. 5 years earlier, the Tselvari had attacked 3 human colony worlds along the Perseus Arm. They claimed territorial expansion rights under an obscure Concorde provision. They burned research stations, destroyed habitats, killed 17,000 colonists. Earth had filed formal protests, requested Concorde intervention, followed all proper diplomatic channels. The Concorde, dominated by species who had secretly feared humanity's rapid expansion, had done nothing. Insufficient evidence of deliberate aggression. The final ruling had stated, border disputes remain the responsibility of the involved parties. Humanity had nodded, accepted the decision with dignity. Their diplomats continued to attend functions, sign agreements, participate in cultural exchanges, and in the shadows they began to build. Not massive warships like the Tselvari, not biological weapons like the Motari. Something entirely different. The nanite deployment was undetected, Park confirmed, checking the mission logs. The Tselvari never knew what happened. One minute they existed, the next. He hesitated. The next, they became raw materials, Ellis finished for him, disassembled at the molecular level. The technology had taken 3 years to perfect in secret laboratories beneath Europa's ice. Microscopic machines that could break down matter itself, converting entire ships and their occupants into nothing more than clouds of atoms. No wreckage, no bodies, just absence where life had once been. It wasn't revenge, Ellis reminded herself. It was calculation. That Tselvari had deemed humans weak because they didn't understand human history. They didn't comprehend what thousands of years of human warfare had taught. True power lies not in showing strength, but in concealing it until the perfect moment. Across human space, similar missions were being completed. Not military strikes, not officially. Just incidents that would leave the galaxy wondering. Back on Earth, Ambassador Lin Chen sat in the Concorde's emergency session, A picture of composed concern as representatives from 17 species shouted over each other, demanding answers, pointing fingers. Earth's delegation expresses deep concern over the disappearance of the Selvari fleet, Chen stated when called upon, his voice carrying just the right note of diplomatic worry. We stand ready to assist in any investigation the Concord deems appropriate. No acceleration in pulse, no perspiration, no micro-expressions of guilt. Chen had been chosen for precisely this quality. Absolute control. Counselor Vex of the Motari Collective leaned forward, compound eyes fixed on Chen. Strange that a human research vessel was reported in that sector just before the disappearance. Chen nodded graciously. The Stargazer has been conducting a 3-year survey of quantum fluctuations in that region. Their data has been shared openly with the Concord Science Division. In fact, they've offered their sensor logs to assist in the investigation. The logs, of course, had been carefully scrubbed. The Stargazer's true capabilities remained hidden behind layers of falsified data and expert misdirection. That night, in his private chambers, Chen received an encrypted message from Earth Command. Phase is 1 complete. Initiate diplomatic P.R. Tokyo Wakasesper. It had begun. 5 years of patience were finally bearing fruit. On the frontier world of Ta City IV, Selvari Ambassador Krell received an anonymous data packet. It contained only a list of names, the 17,000 human colonists who had died in the Selvari raids 5 years earlier. At the bottom was a simple message: humans don't forget. Krell's scales paled. He immediately requested additional security for his compound. It wouldn't help. 3 days later, in the midst of the ongoing crisis, the Concord's Central Archives suffered a catastrophic data breach. Financial records of 17 prominent Concord officials were exposed, records showing substantial Selvari payments coinciding with the dismissal of Earth's formal complaint 5 years earlier. No one claimed responsibility. The breach was traced to a public terminal on a Motari space station. Security footage showed nothing unusual, just a maintenance worker who couldn't be identified in any database. In her quarters aboard the Stargazer, Commander Ellis reviewed the reports coming in from across the galaxy. Confusion, fear, accusations. Species that had coexisted for centuries suddenly viewed each other with suspicion. Phase 2 is proceeding faster than projected, Park noted, studying the data. Ellis nodded. That Selvari were just the beginning. The entire Concord needs to understand. Understand what? Park asked. Ellis turned to face him, her expression calm but her eyes holding something ancient and cold. That humanity didn't evolve past violence. We just learned how to package it better. The Stargazer continued its journey, instruments gathering legitimate astronomical data, while its true systems remained dormant, waiting. In official communications, it was just another research vessel. In reality, it was one of 50 similar ships positioned throughout Concord space, each carrying technologies no alien species had thought to regulate because they hadn't imagined they could exist. 2 weeks after the Selvari fleet vanished, the Motari homeworld detected something alarming: microscopic changes in their atmosphere's composition. Nothing immediately dangerous, but precise, deliberate alterations that shouldn't have been possible given their planetary defense grid. The message was clear: we can reach you anywhere. On 7 different worlds, prominent officials who had voted against Earth's petition 5 years earlier woke to find identical message crystals on their private terminals. We remember. No threats, no demands, just the certainty that they had been found. In the Concord chambers, species that had once dismissed humans as passive began watching them closely. They noted how human delegates never raised their voices, never made threats, yet somehow always seemed to be smiling slightly more than before. "I don't like it," Counselor Vex muttered to his aide. "They're too calm with all this chaos." The aide, younger and less experienced, looked confused. "But humans are always calm. That's their nature." Vex's compound eyes narrowed. "No species is naturally calm. They're either hiding something or planning something." In the human's case, I fear it's both. At that moment, Ambassador Chen caught Vex's gaze across the chamber and offered a small, polite nod. Nothing threatening, nothing unusual. That was what frightened Vex the most. In the void between stars, the stargazer received new orders. Proceed to PHAZs 3. Commander Ellis acknowledged with a single word: understanding. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about justice. It was about teaching the galaxy a lesson it would never forget. Humans weren't peaceful because they lacked strength. They were peaceful because they knew exactly what they could do if they chose not to be. The patient predators. 3 months after the disappearance of the Selvari fleet, a pattern had emerged that could no longer be dismissed as coincidence. Across 17 systems, mysterious incidents had occurred. Communications blackouts, navigation system failures, unexplained atmospheric disturbances, and most disturbingly, the complete disappearance of a Motari science station with its crew of 700. The Galactic Concord called an emergency summit. Security was unprecedented. Quantum scanners, psionic barriers, and genetically keyed access points. The tension in the Grand Chamber was palpable as representatives from 36 species gathered, many openly carrying ceremonial weapons despite protocols forbidding them. Ambassador Chen entered alone, unarmed, wearing the simple gray suit that had become standard for Earth diplomats. He nodded politely to his colleagues, seemingly oblivious to the way conversations hushed as he passed. This summit will address the growing crisis threatening our collective security, announced High Counselor Zix, the ancient Talaxian whose species had helped found the Concord millennia before humans had achieved spaceflight. We face an invisible enemy using methods we cannot detect to achieve goals we do not understand. Chen sat quietly, hands folded, expression neutral. The pattern of these incidents suggests coordinated action, continued Zix. We have examined all possibilities, from natural phenomena to technological malfunctions to terrorist action. A murmur passed through the chamber. There is one connection we can no longer ignore, Zix said, his voice dropping. Every affected system, every targeted installation, every disappeared vessel had one thing in common. They all played some role, however minor, in the Concord's decision regarding the human colony attacks 5 years ago. All eyes turned to Chen. He didn't flinch, didn't protest, didn't even change his breathing pattern. Ambassador Chen, Zix addressed him directly. Does Earth have a response to these correlations? Chen rose slowly, adjusted his suit jacket, and approached the central podium with measured steps. High Counselor, esteemed delegates, he began, his voice calm and measured. Earth shares your concern about these troubling events. We have lost research opportunities, trade connections, and scientific collaborations due to these disruptions. He paused, scanning the room. As for the pattern you've identified, that these incidents connect to events from 5 years ago, I would remind the Concord that Earth accepted your ruling on that matter. We continued our participation in all Concord initiatives. We increased our peacekeeping contributions. We hosted 3 interspecies cultural summits. Another pause. If you are suggesting that Earth somehow possesses technologies capable of making entire fleets vanish, altering planetary atmospheres from light years away, or bypassing the most sophisticated security systems in the galaxy, well, I would ask where we might have developed such capabilities, given that our military budget is public record and subject to Concord oversight. It was a masterful deflection, acknowledging nothing while sounding entirely reasonable. On the bridge of the Stargazer, now positioned near the Motari homeworld, Commander Ellis watched the summit through a secure feed. Lieutenant Park stood beside her, shaking his head in admiration. "He's good," Park said. "He was chosen for this moment," Ellis replied, "just as we were." The Stargazer's true mission had never been research. The vessel housed technology that had been developed in secret for decades: quantum entanglement disruptors, programmable nanite swarms, and gravity phase inverters. None of these weapons appeared on any Concord registration because they hadn't existed when the treaties were written. Humans hadn't violated any agreements. They had simply innovated around them. Back at the summit, the accusations grew more direct. The human delegation claims innocence while worlds suffer, shouted that Selvari representative, scales flaring in agitation. We demand access to all Earth military installations for immediate inspection. Chen remained unruffled. Earth will comply with any inspection regime approved by a full Concord vote, provided all signatories agree to the same conditions. He knew that Selvari would never allow inspections of their own facilities. As the debate raged, a message reached Chen's secure implant, Turo CED2 revelation. Without changing expression, Chen touched a small control in his pocket. Throughout the chamber, delegates' personal devices activated simultaneously, displaying the same image, detailed schematics of the nanite technology that had disassembled the Selvari fleet, along with Earth's complete dossier on every delegate who had accepted bribes to dismiss the colony attack complaint. The chamber erupted in chaos. Chen raised his hand, and somehow, despite having no amplification, his voice cut through the noise. The Concord faces a choice today. The room fell silent. For 3 centuries, humanity has participated in this community in good faith. We signed your treaties. We followed your rules. We trusted in collective security. His voice hardened slightly. That trust was betrayed 5 years ago, when 17,000 human lives were deemed politically inconvenient. He gestured to the display still showing the damning evidence. Earth could have responded immediately with conventional warfare. We could have matched the Selvari ship for ship, weapon for weapon. We chose a different path. You chose illegal technological development, shouted a Motari delegate. Chen smiled thinly. We chose patience. We chose precision. And most importantly, we chose to demonstrate exactly what humanity is capable of when pushed too far. On 17 worlds simultaneously, power grids flickered in a precise pattern, just long enough to prove it was deliberate, not long enough to cause harm. The technologies you're now seeing represent approximately 10% of Earth's defensive capabilities. Chen continued. The rest remain classified. They will stay that way as long as the Concord remembers today's lesson. High Counselor Zix leaned forward. And what lesson is that, Ambassador? Chen's expression remained pleasant, but his eyes had grown cold. That humans aren't peaceful because we lack teeth. We're peaceful because we know exactly what happens when we bare them. In the silence that followed, understanding dawned across alien faces, some in horror, others in newfound respect. Humans had never been the quiet diplomats out of weakness. They had been restraining themselves. Earth does not seek dominance, Chen assured them. We seek only what we have always sought, fair treatment under Concord law. The incident with the Selvari fleet demonstrated what happens when that fails. This is blackmail, hissed the Selvari representative. This is clarity, Chen corrected. For 3 centuries, you've misunderstood us. You saw our willingness to compromise as a lack of resolve. You saw our preference for diplomacy as an inability to fight. He gestured toward the windows showing the stars beyond. Human history is filled with wars that devastated our planet. We learned that victory through annihilation leaves the victor standing alone in ashes. We don't want that future among the stars. On the Stargazer, Commander Ellis received confirmation that the demonstration had been completed across all 17 targets. Phase 3 complete, she noted in the mission log. Entering monitoring stance. Lieutenant Park studied the incoming data streams showing the summit's reaction. Do you think they understand now? Ellis considered the question. They're beginning to. Understanding that humans aren't what they assumed will take time. And if they retaliate. Ellis's expression didn't change, but something cold flickered in her eyes. Then they'll learn exactly why Earth's military budget appeared so small. It's amazing how cost-effective extinction can be. Back at the summit, Chen was concluding his address. Earth proposes a new approach to Concord security, he said. One that recognizes the right of all member species to protect their citizens, even when conventional methods fail. One that acknowledges that true power lies not in displays of force, but in the judicious application of capability. He looked around the chamber. We also propose full reparations for the colony attacks, to be paid by that Selvari Imperium and those Concord officials implicated in the cover-up. That Selvari representative began to protest, but Chen spoke over him. These terms are non-negotiable. Earth has demonstrated what happens when diplomatic channels fail. We would prefer not to provide further demonstrations. It wasn't a threat, not explicitly, but the entire chamber understood. High Counselor Zix studied Chen for a long moment before speaking. The Concord will consider Earth's proposals. In the meantime, we request cessation of all covered activities affecting member worlds. Chen nodded once. Granted, provided no further action is taken against human interests. As the summit adjourned in subdued shock, delegates from species that had once dismissed humans now gave them wide berth. Eyes averted, postures submissive. They had finally understood what humanity truly was, not aggressive conquerors like the Selvari, not cunning manipulators like the Motari, but something far more dangerous. Patient predators who remembered every slight, calculated every move, and struck only when victory was assured. In her private quarters on Mars, General Diana Rivera, Earth Defense Command's highest-ranking officer, received the summit report. She studied it carefully before sending a single encrypted message to the 50 cloaked vessels positioned throughout Concord space. Stand down to monitoring status. Mission successful. As she watched Earth rise over the Martian horizon, Rivera reflected on the irony of it all. Humanity had spent centuries trying to overcome its violent past, to become worthy of joining a galactic community. In the end, it was that very violence, carefully controlled, precisely directed, that had finally earned them respect. The galaxy had learned an ancient lesson that day. The quiet ones are always the most dangerous. They just wait longer to prove it.